Hi, everyone, and welcome. And thank you for joining me today. I'm Nursu, the social media content creator for Decktopus AI, and I'm really looking forward to walking you through something we've been digging into for months here at Decktopus AI: how presentation habits are evolving in 2025. We know presentations aren't going anywhere. In fact, they are more frequent, more important, and more fast paced than ever. But how people are building them, what audiences respond to, and how technology, especially AI, is reshaping the process, and that's changing really fast. We ran an in depth presentation trends survey to answer one big question: how are professionals really building and experiencing presentations right now? The answers were fascinating to us, and I'll be walking you through them slide by slide. I will also point out what has shifted since last year, what audiences expect right now today, and how you can create faster, smarter decks using tools like, of course, Decktopus AI. And before we get started, a quick heads up, people. Everyone joining live today gets 30% off any Decktopus plan. So just use the code 30webinar at checkout on decktopus.com. I will remind you again during the session, no worries, but feel free to write that down just right now. All right, now let me share my screen and we'll jump into the data together. All right. This is the presentation version of our official 2025 survey. We created this to better understand how people approach presentation creation, and of course, more importantly, how their habits are evolving. Decks are no longer, occasional projects. They have become a part of our daily communication, and we wanted to dig into what that shift looks like in practice. So we asked professionals from a variety of industries, what kind of decks do you create, or what's the hardest part of putting them all together? How long do you spend on each one? Are you using AI? Are your presentations landing with your audience, or just filling time? And what do you wish presentation tools would do better for you? All the insights we're sharing today come directly from that feedback. So it's data driven, but also full of real experiences and preferences. And as you will see, people have very strong opinions about what makes presentations frustrating and what makes them memorable, of course. So let's dive in. All right, we run this survey annually to capture not just a snapshot of current habits, but to understand what's shifting over time, right? So we're able to see how people's expectations are evolving, what tools they're adopting, and where old school habits are getting replaced by new workflows. The 2025 version of the survey included responses from marketers, consultants, designers, you name it, educators, product marketers, team leads, and whatnot, a really wide range of professionals. So that diversity gave us a much more complete view of how people use presentations in their day-to-day work, as you might say. And one thing came up across the board: speed and clarity matter more than ever. So, presentation tools need to be smarter, not just prettier, of course. People want something that makes creating decks faster, makes them feel more confident about how their slides look, and helps them actually communicate better, right? Not just check a box or anything like that. And that mindset shift is at the heart of many of the trends we're going to look at today. So, let's continue. So, how long should a presentation be? That's something people tend to really argue about. Let's talk about attention spans. We asked people, ideally, how long should a presentation be, in your opinion? The most common answer was 10 to 15 minutes, people. That's the new gold standard. Not too long to drag, not too short to feel rushed, just enough time to deliver value and also keep people engaged along the way. This also doesn't mean people are lazy or disinterested. It means they're busy. So they are sitting through multiple meetings a day, consuming content constantly, and making decisions really fast because they have to. So if a presentation can be clear, focused, and well-paced, that's what really sticks. Actually, as presenters, that challenges us to be, concise and intentional, if you will. Every slide needs a purpose. Every section needs a flow. The days of the 45-minute slide dump are long behind us because nobody will listen to them anymore. Whether you're building decks for sales, education, or internal updates, shorter, smarter formats are what audiences want right now, and this is what they expect. All right. Ideal text percentage on a slide. Let's talk about that. So, next we asked them, how much text do you think should be on a single slide? And the answer came through loud and clear, 10 to 25%. That's basically a headline and a couple of bullet points, maybe a single sentence to set the context, Audiences don't want to read slides anymore. They want to listen to you. Too much text really overwhelms people and makes it really boring for them and shifts focus away from you as a speaker. So you just get lost there. It also makes your slides look very cluttered, very messy, especially in virtual or mobile viewing formats. So the simpler and clearer your text is, the more powerful your message actually becomes. And the easier it is for people to follow, of course, not to mention. And here's the good news. Cutting back on text forces you to prioritize what actually matters. So what's the takeaway? What's the one message you want them to, stick with? Once you're clear on that, the design and the delivery will both improve instantly and automatically, of course. All right. How do people think about visuals? When we ask people how they feel about visuals in presentations, the sentiment was pretty strong. Visuals are not optional anymore, guys. You have to have them. There is no other way. They are essential. One respondent even said, like you can see it on the slide, if there is no image, it didn't happen. That really captures how people connect with visual storytelling today because we are actually visual creatures. We live in a highly visual world, scrolling Instagram, watching TikToks, interpreting infographics. Your audience is used to processing visuals quickly, and that expectation carries into presentations. A great visual, whether it's an icon, a chart, or an illustration, makes your point land faster and, of course, stick longer. That doesn't mean throwing in random stock photos, of course. I mean, that wouldn't work. It means selecting visuals that serve a purpose, to clarify, to emphasize, to guide attention. A simple visual can make a slide feel more dynamic and more human, which is what we're going for, of course, and which is especially valuable when presenting remotely. Okay. How often do you get distracted during a presentation? That's a very honest question, I think, and one that is really eye-opening. So we asked, how often do you get distracted while watching a presentation yourself? And 1 in 3 respondents said pretty often. I mean, I was actually expecting that, but that's still a huge portion of your audience checking out midway through a talk. And that's a problem we have to take seriously, guys. Distraction happens for a few reasons. Sometimes the content is too dense, sometimes the pacing is too slow, sometimes the delivery is too lame. I don't know. Sometimes there's just too much going on the screen or not enough happening at all. That's actually worse. But most often it's because the presenter isn't actively working to maintain attention. They're just trying to get over it. Keeping people engaged isn't about tricks or gimmicks, it's about structure. A strong hook at the beginning, regular points of variation, and a compelling narrative arc all help. Your slides can also do some of the heavy lifting, of course, with thoughtful transitions, visual cues, and content that builds slide to slide. All right. Let's continue. How long is your attention span for a presentation? So, when we asked this to people, the most common answer was 5 to 10 minutes. So that's your window to basically earn trust. That's a first impression. It's really important, and you only got one shot. So it's your time to earn trust, deliver impact, and keep your audience with you to hook them. If you think about that, it's not a lot of time, I know, but it means you have to lead strong. Your first few slides are your biggest opportunity, not just to inform, but to make people want to keep watching or listening to you. So that means no slow intros, no generic overviews. Get to the point and do it fast. After that first 10 minutes, your job is to just re-engage, use a story, introduce a new angle, talk about something else. The point is to reset the clock, and tools like Decktopus, of course, can help with this by giving you a tighter flow and a clearer structure, so you're not relying on fillers to get through your slides. All right, we asked people what sticks with them after a presentation. And the number one answer was storytelling. Shocker, no. I mean, I was totally expecting that because storytelling is king. More than facts, more than visuals, more than flashy design, more than anything. People remember stories because it is relatable. They go like, I mean, I was there. I remember it. I went through something like that once in my life. So it is really important to be relatable with your stories, to personify everything. And that makes sense. Stories create connection, right? They add emotion, context, and flow. And a great story makes your numbers mean something. It makes your slides feel like part of a conversation instead of just, a broadcast, if you will. Second to storytelling were statistics and visuals, which are also very powerful in their own right. But when you wrap stats and visuals inside a compelling narrative, that's when things really click. Whether you're presenting data, explaining a process, or pitching an idea, always ask, where is the story? Okay. People don't want perfection from presenters. What do you expect from a presenter? I mean, what they expect is clarity, confidence in structure, most of all. That means they want to follow what you're saying, feel like you know what you're talking about and understand where you're headed next. Like you have to know what you're doing in their eyes. And a confident presenter doesn't have to be loud or flashy. They just have to be present. They need to be there with all their like physical and mental existence. When you speak with intention and use your slides to support your ideas, not complete them like with them, and you just there, you earn your trust. And that's it. You need to earn their trust by being there. And trust makes your message a lot more persuasive. So your audience is already giving you something valuable, which is their time. Yes. So when you guide them well, when your delivery is smooth, you make it worthwhile. So when your slides are thoughtfully designed, you are there, everything is great, your delivery is smooth, it creates a better performance for everyone. They need to know that you're present and you're there with all your heart. You're not just trying to get it over with and just go there and sit back in your seat. They wouldn't want that. And speaking of creating a better experience, here's a quick reminder, people. You can use the code 30webinar on decktopus.com to get 30% off any plan. That's offered just for today's attendees, so please feel free to use it if you're ready to simplify your workflow. All right, how often do you create presentations? When we asked how often people actually create presentations, the results were really clear. For many, it's a weekly task or even more frequent, if you will. Presentations aren't just for big moments anymore. You can give them anytime, actually. They're part of our daily operations, status updates, proposals, training materials, and even onboarding sessions now. This shift toward frequent presentation making has completely changed what people need from their tools. If you're making a deck once a month, you might, have time to manually design every slide, but if you're doing this weekly or even more, then speed, automation, and ease actually become essential. I mean, you don't want to really waste your time on those if you're doing this very frequently. So you can't waste hours fiddling with fonts or layout and whatnot, like with design, when there's a deadline in 2 hours. That really sucks. That's one reason AI-powered presentation builders have gained so much popularity right now. They take the pressure off the blank page and help streamline repetitive steps. Because if you're going to be doing this work constantly, the process needs to support you, not slow you down. Okay. What types of presentations do you build the most? People build all kinds of decks, people. From internal performance reviews and client updates to external pitches, course content, and public webinars, just like this one. The most common types were internal reports and external client presentations, but we saw a huge variety of use cases as well. This variety shows that one size fits all tools aren't just cutting it anymore. A deck for an investor pitch needs to look and feel totally different than one for a training workshop. It can't be the same. The structure, the tone, the visuals, and content length will all shift depending on the goal. It needs to be tailored, you know? And users want tools that make that switch effortless. And it also highlights the need for reusable formats and intelligent templates. When you have to deliver consistent text across teams or clients, having a base that's on brand, on message, and easy to repurpose saves time and, of course, keeps quality high. Okay, let's move on to the question: how do you feel about remote presenting? The majority of respondents told us they feel confident presenting remotely now, which is a big change from just a few years ago. And I'm sure you would agree with me. Remote work has made virtual presentations the norm, not the exception, and that's influenced everything from deck design to delivery style. But confidence doesn't always mean connection, of course. People said they like miss the energy of a room, the body language, like physically being there, the quick reactions, and that's of course understandable. And that's exactly why your slides have to work even harder in a remote setting. I mean, that's just a little harder for us to do right now in a remote setting, but it's what it is, guys. We just need to work harder to, give that emotion to the people that are listening to us. Because they need to feel more alive, more guided, and more engaging because you are often the only thing holding your audience's attention through a screen. And that's where features like visual rhythm, animated transitions, embedded video, or even presenter avatars are beginning to shine. They help bridge the energy gap, which is really important. It's all about the energy. They give your message movement and momentum. And in 2025, that kind of remote presence is becoming a core skill, not a niche one anymore. All right, how proud were you of your last presentation? Be honest. Okay. We asked people how they felt about their most recent presentation, and the results were mixed. A solid group said they felt really proud, but many said, I got it done, but I really wish I had more time, which is understandable. I mean, I could relate. Others felt that their design didn't live up to their content. And the common thread: most people are still compromising, either on quality or time. But actually, you really don't have to do that. This shows us that the process itself is still a bottleneck. People have great ideas. There's nothing wrong with the ideas. They know what they are going to say. But the act of putting it all together, that's the work. Making it flow, making it look good, making it feel clear still causes friction. And that's where tools need to evolve, I think. If someone could say, I'm proud of both the content and how I delivered it, then that would be great. Like that would mean their tool helped them succeed and not just survive. That's the benchmark we should be aiming for. Confident creators, strong slides, and presentations that feel polished without being painful to produce. All right. How often do you reuse old presentations? Guys, no shame here, I promise. Reusing decks is huge. The majority of respondents said they they often take old presentations and tweak them for new situations. And that really makes sense, especially when you've already built something that works. I mean, why start from scratch? That's totally understandable. But here's the challenge: most people don't have an easy way to store, find, and update their past decks. They're digging through folders, copy pasting slides, redoing the formatting, and that slows everything down again. What could be a 5-minute refresh just turns into 45 minutes of cleanup, which really sucks. And that's why one of the fastest growing trends is the idea of dynamic and living decks, presentations that are easy to duplicate, customize, and personalize without starting over. Because starting over makes you waste a lot of precious time. If you present a lot or across teams or clients, this kind of reuse strategy becomes essential. All right. Here's one of the most practical questions we asked. How long does it actually take to prepare a 10-slide presentation? And 10 slides is not really little. I mean, it's not bad, but it's long. I mean, it's not that short. All right, the majority of our respondents, 38%, said it takes them 1 to 2 hours. That seems to be the current benchmark, but here's where it gets interesting. Another 22% said they can do it under 1 hour, which is impressively fast. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that, by the way. Meanwhile, 25% reported needing 4 to 6 hours, and 15% said it takes them more than 6 hours. That means for a big portion of professionals, even a short presentation still eats up a huge chunk of their day. And that's just 10 slides. I mean, don't mind me saying just 10 slides, it's still a lot of work. It shows how much time goes into ideation, structure, copywriting, branding, visuals, lots of things, and layouts and everything, the design, which is the hardest part for me, by the way. Especially when you're starting from scratch or switching between different tools, the process is way more time consuming than it looks on the surface. The good news is, though, these numbers are trending slightly faster than last year. And that's largely thanks to tools like Decktopus AI that help you move from idea to execution without manually aligning every text box. With auto formatting, smart templates, and AI powered slide drafting, people are beginning to win back valuable hours without sacrificing quality. Okay, when we asked participants what they prioritized the most during slide creation, the answer was overwhelmingly clear: content. A full 50% of respondents said their number one focus is on what they're actually saying, which really makes sense. That's followed by visual design at 25%, flow at 15%, and just 5% each for branding and animation. So, what this tells us is that people want to build decks that communicate, not just impress. Visuals are important, and we'll talk about that too, but they're seen as a supporting act, not the headliner. The story and structure of your content is what audiences care about most, and it's where presenters are focusing their energy. If the message isn't clear, it doesn't matter how beautifully it's presented. Okay. What's the biggest problem with presentation tools? This slide brings some very honest feedback from users. When we asked them what frustrates them the most about presentation tools, 35% pointed to bad design results. That was followed closely by time consuming workflows, cited by 30%. Other pain points included limited customization features, outdated templates, and difficult interfaces, all of which add unnecessary stress to the creative process. Okay. What should presentation tools focus on? Here we get a look at what users actually want from their presentation platforms. The number one request was design assistance, chosen by 40% of respondents. That was followed by better templates, easier collaboration tools, a simpler UI, and more interactivity features. What we're hearing here loud and clear is people don't need more control. They just need better support. If a tool can handle layout, formatting, and design consistency automatically, that frees up the presenter to focus on their ideas, tone, and structure instead. So, templates are helpful, yes, but templates plus AI equals speed and polish that feel tailor made. All right. Should presentations be mandatory in education? Absolutely. I mean, I would definitely want that for my kid. This was one of the most hardening slides in the entire survey. A strong majority of people said yes, of course. Presentations should absolutely be taught in schools. That's because presentation skills go far beyond visuals and slides. It is more than that. They teach organization, persuasion, confidence, and public speaking, all core soft skills for the modern workplace. Think about it. We teach students how to write essays, solve math problems, and code software, but what about explaining their thoughts clearly to people? It's about communication. So it's really important. And most people said it needs to be mandatory for schools, and it is totally understandable. Okay, how do you get started on a presentation? We asked, how do you usually begin building a deck? And the top answer was by a wide margin, starting from scratch. Same, exactly. Like I agree 100%. Over half of our users say they begin with a blank canvas, while others reuse previous decks, use templates, or collaborate on existing ones. That means most people are still doing the heavy lifting themselves, slide by slide. That's not always a bad thing, of course, by the way, but it can be incredibly time consuming and overwhelming. Starting from scratch forces you to think through structure, flow, tone, lots of things, and visual style, like without any guidance. That's really hard. For some, that's exciting, but I mean, not for most people, me, myself included, especially when a deadline is looming and the pressure is high. So that's why more and more users are turning to platforms that offer intelligent starting points like smart templates, topic based slide structures, and auto suggested content blocks. The trend is clear, guys. Creators are shifting from blank slates to smarter starts, and that's helping them to go faster without compromising on clarity or polish. Okay, this is where things start to get really exciting. When we asked if people currently use AI to help with their presentations, the majority said yes, especially for content creation. That's a huge shift compared to just a couple of years ago when AI was more of a novelty than a tool. But now AI has gone from curiosity to co-pilot. Like each one of us is using it. People are using it to brainstorm outlines, draft talking points, to write content, and even generate images now, like in the blink of a second. The biggest appeal is it helps get the first version out faster. And once that rough draft is there, it's much easier to tweak and personalize it into something more polished and powerful. All that is important is that you have a skeleton thanks to AI, and then you work on it, you build on it, right? So this confirms that we've been betting on all along that AI isn't replacing the human presenter, it's supporting them. It removes creative blocks, speeds up execution, and brings ideas to life with less friction. And that means more people can build better presentations even under pressure. All right. Um, Finally, we asked people to imagine the future. What do you want AI to do next in the presentation space? The answers were inspiring. People said they want AI avatars, audience feedback features, real time design suggestions, and even AR, VR storytelling experiences. This isn't science fiction, it's the next frontier, guys. And these aren't just cool ideas, they solve real problems. So, for example, getting feedback while rehearsing could help presenters know where to improve tone or pacing. AI avatars could help people deliver in multiple languages or present in their absence. How cool is that? Interactive storytelling could turn static decks into immersive experiences. And the common thread, people are ready to go beyond slides. They want tools that feel alive, like adaptive, immersive, and actually intelligent. And that's exactly where Decktopus AI is headed. Whether it's co presenting, dynamic personalization, or real time audience interaction, we're building a future where your slides work with you and not just for you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our journey through the 2025 Presentation Trends Survey. I want to say a huge thank you for joining me today. Whether you present weekly or just once a quarter, these insights are here to help you communicate more clearly, more confidently, and with less stress. As promised, you will get early access to our full Presentation Trends 2025 ebook. It's packed with even more data, insights, and tips you can share with your team or reflect on after today's webinar. You will find a download link available in the chat very shortly. I highly recommend grabbing it. And one final reminder before we go, please don't forget to use the code 30webinar for 30% off any plan on decktopus.com. That code's good for the next 48 hours. And thank you again. I hope this helps helps you build better decks, tell stronger stories, and it makes everything better so you can understand how everything works in the presentation world. And until next time, I will say happy presenting, and please continue following us. We will be here again next week. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you for joining us.